Welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. I'm Brad. Today we're talking about the massive trade between the Calgary Flames and the Philadelphia Flyers. And make sure as you can see on the screen, Frank Saravalli was the first on it. If you're on YouTube, definitely make sure you hit like, subscribe, and comment what your thoughts on the trade is. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, just give that podcast rating. It really helps small creators like me. And let's just jump right into this. I want to continue making more content. I mean, I'm still going to, but it helps out. And if you like me, it just shows love. Anyways, we're talking about the trade with Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost being traded to the Calgary Flames, and then the Flyers picking up Jakob Pelletier and Andrei Kuzmenko for a second and a 7th round pick. So some of the details we do know more about it with these people going across to different teams. It's important to understand the context of what's happening here and why these teams did these certain things, right? Because these two different teams are in two different types of rebuilds, right? So we look at the Calgary Flames on what they did in the last, even just the last year, right? Look at last year where they ended up trading, their Elias Lindholm, right? They traded him to the Vancouver Canucks. They traded Zadorov to the Canucks as well. They ended up trading Tanev to the Dallas Stars. So they were going through this retool. And they were talking about this. They don't want to go through a full-blown rebuild. I mean, they have contracts like a Huberdeau and a Kadri, and they have these all these players on this team where it'd be very hard to go through a rebuild because these guys, like, they have these guys giant contracts that they can't move. Like both Kadri and Huberdeau both have full-blown no movement clauses, so it would not be smart in that sense. You also have like a Backlund who has a full no move clause. You have a Coleman who has a partial no move clause. Like, so you have some expensive contract. You just signed up Sharon Govich to a longer contract who you got in a trade. You traded out Markstrom as well last year too, right? So this team did a heavy sell last year in the Flames. And so what they were looking to do, again, they're looking to bring someone in that like brings some guys in that are young, that are going to be part of this team long term. And they were looking for guys in that like Sharon Govich range, right? So look at Sharon Govich is 26. You have like Rasmus Andersson is 28. You have a Daniil Miramov, who they got from the Dallas Stars. You have like Dan Vladar, 27. Dustin Wolf is 23. Like, these guys are like in that key window right there. And so they end up trading for two guys, Joel Farabee, 24 years old, and Morgan Frost, 25 years old. And so I've been talking about this because I wanted the Red Wings to trade. I'm a huge Red Wings fan, but I want to talk about this. And I know that the Calgary Flames are looking for a center that is going to be here long term. They were looking for like a 24 or 23, 24, 25-year-old center who's going to be here long term with the team. And I was talking about with the Red Wings who they could trade for that. And so because they wanted an established NHLer, and I was thinking Joe Veleno. But you end up getting a guy like Morgan Frost to that center position. And then Joel Farabee, who plays that winger place, right? So you think about this, like these are upgrades for sure, right? Joel Farabee is going to take over that Andrei Kuzmenko spot. Morgan Frost is going to be in your lineup, and Jakob Pelletier is actually a point per game. The problem is Jakob Pelletier is a point per game player in the AHL. So we're gonna start with who the Flames are getting. They're getting a Joel Farabee. Let's pull him up real quick as well, because this guy, he's played well, but again, there's a lot of, he was locked up for pretty long term. He signed a 6-year deal, couple in 22-23 at a $5 million cap hit. And so he's in that weird window where like he's useful, but again, the Flyers are like, you're 25, like we're in the middle. They actually are in the middle of a rebuild, right? Flyers are like picking up bad contracts. They moved out. They've acted as like a third team as well. So, but they're still in the middle of that rebuild. They still need more players that can solidify them around. I mean, they got like Bonk, they have Michkov and everything, but they need to be worse for longer because they don't have enough like good rookies yet, right? They want to start, going for those lottery picks and everything. A guy like Joel Farabee, they didn't really need. Again, he's 25 years old. So you're like, okay, we don't need you, man. It's 25 or 26. Joel Farabee, 24. He's 24. So he could have been useful, but again, by the time he's going to want a new contract in 3 years, you're like, okay, now we got to start paying Michkov. Now we got to start paying, maybe another top 5 draft pick that you get, or maybe the 2 top 5 draft picks you'll be getting. And so with Joel Farabee, who are you getting? This guy has hit 50 points in 82 games before. Currently, that's a decent pace, I guess, for a guy making $5 million. You'd like maybe a little bit more. I mean, but he's okay there. We look at what he's doing this year. He's only got 19 points in 26 games. And he's playing like 12, 15 minutes or 12 to 13 minutes a night. And for a $5 million player, that's just not what you want to see. So he's only at 19 points, 50 games. So you're looking at a projection of like maybe 32 points this year. I mean, that's a down year for sure. So you're like, hey, let's sell off on him. Like what can we get back? And you say, okay, Joel Farabee, well, we can get Andrei Kuzmenko. And so the reason, and I'm not going to do all Flames and all Flyers. I want to do the reasons why they do this. So move on with Joel Farabee. Now you don't have to pay him for the next 2 years, the rest of this year or 2 years either, right? And you are getting a better player in Farabee because he has 19 points in 50 games. If we look up Kuzmenko, pulling up his right now, he's got 15 points, 37 games, but he is performing a little bit better. But Kuzmenko, one, makes a little bit more. Two, Kuzmenko is also older, right? So he's older and he's 28 years old. So you're getting the quote unquote worst player in the sense that he's producing a little bit better on a points per game percentage, but he is 28 years old. He's not going to be part. Again, Flames are looking for younger guys. 28 years old. You're not going to sign this guy for the next a 2, 3, 4 year contract. That doesn't make sense for them, right? It doesn't make sense for the Flames to do that. They're trying to get younger because they already have old players like a Huberdeau, like a Huberdeau who's 31, like a Kadri who's already who's 34, and he signed. I think he signed to like 40, which is kind of crazy. So, and the reason that the Flyers would want Kuzmenko is that back in the day, he actually played with Michkov. So, and one of the issues with the Flyers is that you're seeing Michkov. So you're seeing a lot of, Torts is of course Torts, right? John Tortorella is their coach, and he is a tough guy to cook. Like he's a tough guy. And so the problem is that Michkov doesn't speak enough English to be able to be communicative. So like there's times where like Torts is sitting Michkov and might not understand. And then so they had Zamulov, who does speak English, they would go into the room with Zamulov as a translator for Michkov. And then that was starting to affect Zamulov's game. They was going through that, and he had to be like a conduit as being basically the messenger. It's like, no, you're not the messenger. Why can't you guys afford a translator for Michkov? And so this is kind of like bringing in a Kuzmenko. You're getting a guy that Michkov's already familiar with, and that they can talk. They'll have a buddy, dude. Because if you're looking again, I don't think there's like any other Russians on the team that actually he can be speaking to. I mean, I'm making a total biased answer. I'm looking at last names right now, but you have it looks like a lot of Americans, and it looks like a lot of Canadians. Maybe a couple there's like no one that speaks. I'm looking for like Zador off. Like I'm looking for the offs or like the certain way that Russians spell. There's no other Russians there. Besides Ivan Fedotov, but again, he's goalie, right? So he's sometimes when he's playing, like still you can't communicate with him. And he's just not, maybe there's not buddies, right? Because Michkov's also like 10 years younger than Ivan Fedotov. So again, you kind of need a buddy that you can kind of work with and everything. And so again, they're very familiar with each other. So there's a reason that Kuzmenko would be attractive to the Flyers. And again, it's a guy that that the Flames were already going to lose. He was going to go to UFA anyways. He was not going to re-sign with the Flames. I don't know if they wanted to. So like, hey, let's dump this asset and kind of get someone back in Joel Farabee, who is locked up. And like, even if the Flames suck for the next 2 years, like he's locked up. Like he can't go anywhere. And then you can decide if you want to keep him long term as well, or flip him at a deadline later for more picks in the middle of this retool. And again, maybe, and the nice thing about doing this so early at the end of July, at the end of January, wasn't near close to the trade deadline, is you see if Andrei Kuzmenko will work with you. Like if it will work for the Michkov and everything. And maybe you do understand. Jenny Breer says, hey man, like maybe we do want to sign this guy. Maybe maybe he's going to produce well. We did see that Andrei Kuzmenko had a awesome rookie year. Let me scroll down to his stats real quick. You can see with the Vancouver Canucks in 22-23, he had in 81 games, he had 74 points, 39 goals. That is a phenomenal first season. You're looking at almost a point per game, right? Like 7 points below a point per game. And then the next year with the Canucks in 23-24, he had half the production, right? So he had 21 points in 43 games. You're like, well, that's not great. Then when he got traded to the Flames, he was looking really hot. He had in 29 games, he had 14 goals, basically a goal every other game, 25 points. And again, but in this year again, he slowed down. So he was an asset that was no longer working for the team. Which again, you're like, let's get something out of this guy. So getting Joel Farabee back again, you're getting like an established guy who's going to be there long term. Again, not a huge point getter, but again, he can put almost a half point per game player, and he's locked up as well. So maybe if you put him on a line where there's not a ton of high end talent, I would say, on Calgary when it comes to the top two, like the top six. So if we're looking at the top six right now in the depth chart, I'm pulling up Puckpedia right now. We'll share this tab instead. You see, you got Huberdeau, Kadri, and then Sharon Govich. Okay, so and these guys aren't producing the crazy ton. You can see they have like 36 points, 34 points, 18 points. Then you have Blake Coleman, Backlund, Coronado. That's fine, I guess. That's a really, these are old lines, by the way. Look at these. Look at Huberdeau's almost 31. Kadri's almost 34. He's 33. You have second line, you have a 32-year-old and an almost 35-year-old on the second line. Then you get significantly younger as you go to the third line. You got a 24-year-old, almost 25-year-old, and a 24-year-old. So like you need to get younger, and that's huge. That's absolutely huge for this Calgary team, because you're retooling, you're trying to flush it out and bring in better assets and everything. And so I don't mind this trade at all in that sense. So moving back to the trade though with Saravalli, you get a Jakob. So I'm going to talk about Jakob Pelletier last. This has happened with Suter. So they had their coach Suter, who was playing. Dude, it was the most embarrassing thing, honestly, for the Flames. I was embarrassed for the Flames. Is it? Their coach Suter. They're like, oh, we're gonna have this guy. The rookie come up. And he came in and he played decently well. And someone goes, hey, like, what do you think of this game? He goes, who? Like who? What are you talking about, dude? Like, it's so frustrating because it's such an embarrassment to be like, you're a coach. You should know that what's happening in your like team, like who they're bringing up, who they're calling up. But he's outside. He's not a regular guy there, right? And so Jakob Pelletier was also a former first round pick too. Real quick, I think Joel Farabee was as well. Joel Farabee, I'm very sure, is a first round pick. So, 14th overall in 2018. So that's a great pickup right there, right? Kuzmenko was undrafted, so that's a huge. So there is some upside to Joel Farabee that he could potentially have that first overall or first round pick upside, right? Going to Jakob Pelletier, who the Flyers got. He got 11 points in 24 games this season in the NHL. My apologies, in the NHL. And then if you look at the AHL right now, he has 19 points in 20 games that he's played this year. So there's definitely some upside to this guy. I mean, we see this. The game doesn't always translate from AHL to NHL. But again, he's only 23. He's definitely has upside and everything. And again, the Flyers are like, yeah, we'll take a flyer on him. Like we'll take a flyer on him. That's so funny. I did not mean to do that. But yeah, so they'll take a flyer on him. And again, he's an RFA. And he's a guy playing left wing. And so you have your Joel Farabee replacement right there. So you get another left winger there. And he's an RFA. So he's 24. He's 23 right now. So you have him under team control. You could say, hey, let's give you a bridge deal and let's see how it works. And maybe it does work. Maybe it doesn't. And you just say, okay, well, it's worth a shot. It was a former first round pick. Again, another guy was drafted 26th overall in 2019. So the youngest piece in this deal, obviously, besides the second or seventh round pick. But again, you're getting a guy who's more of a prospect, right? Maybe a little more of a project. But again, put up almost half point per game player this season. So if you can maybe put him up a little higher in the lineup, that would be great. But again, in the last couple of years, he's been up and down between the AHL and the NHL. And so it'll be cool to see him get a solidified spot in the lineup. And it's a good bet to do. Again, you're acquiring a young player because you're not in win now mode. You're in, hey, let's develop guys. Let's bring guys in to work with us, see if they pop off, see if they don't, see, try them up high in lineup. If they don't, kind of fall them back, right? You got these guys so that you can try them out. Again, Kuzmenko is also a try it out guy, right? And then going back to Morgan Frost, now we go over to the Calgary Flames side, looking at Morgan Frost. Again, we talked about this. The Flames were looking for a center. The Flames were looking for a center, and they picked up Morgan Frost. Again, another former first round pick. By the way, Sarah Valley actually talks about this in the tweet. He goes, that's in the tweet, he said, with a trade, that's 3 first round picks and a sizable chunk of money changing hands. And it is. It's a good amount of money. I mean, you're looking at, let's see, it ends up being total. Let's see, 5. So you have Flyers have picked up $850 million or $8.5 million or $6.3 million and about $7.1 million going back to the Flames. So ends up being a cost difference about, I think, like $2 million. Cost difference is actually only $800,000. So that works out really well. And so you're looking at Morgan Frost, by the way, again, a guy who he's an RFA, he's under team patrol. The Flames were like, hey, we want a center. And there was so much frustration around the Frost in the organization that they're like, we need to do something with it. We have to figure out what we're doing with this kid. I think he requested a trade at one point. Like it was just like, it was getting frustrating because they were frustrated with Morgan Frost not working out to be the guy he wanted to be. I mean, he's a late first round pick, right? You'd be lucky to be him or be in your bottom 6. His even time on ice was like 12 minutes a night. So he's not getting like a ton of time, right? But I mean, let's see how much he's getting. Let's see per game on time. So he's getting like 600 minutes in 49 games. So 600 divided by 49 games, you're looking at like 12 minutes a night. Again, they want more out of him, and I'm sure a first round pick like definitely wants more. Like they want to play more. Like hockey players don't want to get off the ice. They're used. Hockey players, or like NHL professional players, are used to being the best guy on their team coming out of that. Like, and so you're like, okay, I want to play top. Like they were the first line guys. Like they were the best goalie. They were the best defenseman on their team. And again, as you go higher and up, you're become less and less the best because you're playing with the best, right? And so I think he's got 25 points in 49 games, half point per game player. Again, maybe he can solidify himself as like a second line center. And that would work out because you have Backlund who's getting older. Kadri, they might trade him. I mean, there's talks about him being traded as well. So he might go as far as first line center, which would be crazy. But I think with Backlund looking as old as he is, the Calgary Flames have him. He's 35 years old. They got him for this year and next year. Maybe, as you work Morgan Frost, maybe he goes to become your second line center. I mean, that'd be a phenomenal pickup for the Calgary Flames that you can get a second line center in this deal. So, and it might only cost you a Pelletier who was in the AHL at 23 years old, was not working out. Kuzmenko, who was a UFA you were going to lose, and only a second round pick and a 7th. Like that's pretty desirable. So looking at the picks real quick, we're going to talk about those. You get a 2025 second round pick and a 2028 7th round pick. So again, the 7th is like, oh, that's nice. 2028. In 2028, the player that's getting picked that year, if he's getting picked at 18 years old, is 15 years old right now. Maybe he might not even be in the CHL. He might be still in like juniors, right? And so, if you look at what, let's say a team calls and they say, man, we kind of like Kuzmenko. We kind of want to pick him up. What would you trade for him? Well, Florida or Flyers could actually say, hey, we have a retention slot. Like, what do you want for him? Like, let's say, oh, we'll give you a 3rd or 4th round pick. And they'll be like, sold. Sure. We'll retain on him. Like, that's an option. I don't think they will. I think they'd rather keep him because I think the communication and it's so important to build Michkov into the star. He will be a superstar. In my opinion, he'll be a superstar in this league. Like, you need to make sure that he becomes the best version of himself because he is absolutely going to be a monster in this league. If we're looking at what Michkov's doing this year as a rookie, 34 points in 51 games. I mean, great production. Him and Celebrini are leading this league in the rookie side in points. And so you want to see him produce and you want to see him become the best player that he absolutely can be because he will be your star. He'll be basically your Kucherov of the team, right? Like, so we will see. I mean, that'll be great. Again, the second round pick doesn't hurt either. And if we look at, again, going to the Philadelphia Flyers real quick, I want to talk about the draft picks real quick because to me, it's a little bit crazy. Pulling it up real quick on Buckpedia, it shows right here. In this up and coming 2025 draft, they have 3 first-round draft picks, one from the Oilers, who they end up picking up their in the let's pull up the trade real quick. I think they wanted go to the Oilers. It was a top 12 protected draft pick. So Flyers had Florida's, which was the 32nd overall draft pick. And so they ended up trading for the Oilers pick for this upcoming year. And so clearly the Oilers wanted someone, Sam O'Reilly, in the first round last year. And then they just Flyers all right, cool, we'll take this one. And Oilers, by the way, this year, if they end up going to the Stanley Cup Finals, right, it'll be the 31st overall pick. So basically, it's a 1-for-1. You're just trading different years. So, and then they also have their own pick. They're the first round pick for 2025. They have their own today. They have the Oilers one as well. And then also in a deal with Colorado, Colorado acquired Sean Walker in a 5th round pick from Philadelphia. And then Philadelphia Flyers had Ryan Johansson and the conditional first round pick. And that conditional first round pick is a top 10 protected pick. If it is, then it slides to 2026. So that's cake, right? That's pretty much it. So love to see that. I mean, that's amazing. That's a great little setup and everything. But yeah, this is a great trade, a great one. And then again, they have four second round draft picks. I mean, that right there, you can use to either pick up guys. I mean, Calgary picked up, sold Mangiapane for a second round draft pick. I mean, second round draft picks can be used to pick up guys to improve your team, or you could just hey, pick them, and then they can develop in their juniors, ECHL, AHL, and they can just in the SHL, and they can go and develop. And then when they're all ready to come up in the second round, imagine, think of this, you use all the picks, all 7 guys, right? Let's just say theoretically that all those guys in 2, 3, 4 years are all going to come up together, all be on cheap contracts, and they're all going to be good together. Michkov will already have 2 years under his belt already there, right? He'll have this year, and then he'll have 4 years drafts under his belt already. So you're this is great. Now you have this youth movement, and you're seeing that with the Red Wings as an example of a team who's on the up and coming, who the young guys are working out, right? You're seeing Moritz Seider pop off. You're seeing Lucas Raymond. You're seeing Edvinsson. You're seeing Kasper. You're seeing Albert Johansson. You're seeing Costa starting to look phenomenal. These guys are starting to work out because they're all starting to come up at the same time. They're starting to get good at the same time, right? And that can absolutely happen to the Flyers. But again, that's part of the rebuild. So you move off guys you're not going to use long term. You move the guys that you aren't going to use, Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee, right? You're bringing guys that might work out in long term. Jakob Pelletier, right? Andrei Kuzmenko is definitely a culture guy for Michkov because that's important for your long term, right? And then you're going to pick up a second round pick as well. So, like to see this. This is good business on both the Flyers and the Flames in both their respective directions. Again, the Flames going to the retool, and then the Flyers being a rebuild. Retools take 3 to 5 years, right? Because you're doing a quick turnaround, 2 to 5 years. A rebuild can take upwards of 8 to 10 years again. And so by doing this trade, Flyers are solidifying that they're in that rebuild. And that's a good thing because the Flyers are currently sitting at third to the bottom in the Eastern Conference, right? All the other teams are starting to pull away. There's a negative 27 goal differential. They were planning on rebuild anyways. They were planning on selling anyways. It was nice to see them kind of push for a playoff spot, and they still can. And maybe they do, right? Maybe you make this trade and then you suddenly get better. I think Flyers get a little bit worse. I think Flames get a little bit better. But again, I think you're just looking at the direction that the teams were trying to go. It was smart for Flyers to sell off, right? And plan for the future long term. And Calgary Flames are currently sitting in the second wildcard spot. I mean, Vancouver's on their tail with only 1 point. Flames are only 1 point ahead of the Vancouver Canucks. But again, Vancouver's starting to really flounder. You're seeing that. They're probably going to trade Pettersson. They're probably going to trade Miller. They might even trade Quinn Hughes, which is just crazy. Do what you can to get trade for Quinn Hughes if you can. I'm looking at you, New Jersey. And then Flames are now making a little bit move. Maybe this makes them a little bit better. maybe they could knock off the Los Angeles Kings. They're only point behind the Los Angeles Kings, right? And clearly Calgary is definitely a less talented team than the LA Kings. Dustin Wolf was just stealing games for them for the Flames. So we will see. We will absolutely see. But yeah, so we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll jump into a couple of more NHL news and then I will let you go for the night. So stay tuned and check out DraftKings. Use code THPN, by the way. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Now, again, if you're looking at a contender like maybe the Chiefs or the Bills, I mean, you could bet them to go all the way. Or if you're just a Chiefs hater, let's say, you can bet against them up until the Super Bowl, and it's so great. So make sure to get on the action at DraftKings. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boo Hill Casino Resort. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Okay, real quick, a couple more news. We have a lot. We actually had a huge JT Miller trade, so we got to break that down as well. And so we have Actually, I'll probably be doing it in my next video, actually, because it's going to take a long time. But real quick, run through some things. Brandon Saad actually mutually terminated his contract with the St. Louis Blues, ends up giving up $4.5 million or whatever was going to make this rest of this season and next season. And mind you, he's made plenty of money. So it's not about the money in this case. It's about the opportunity, and he doesn't see his opportunity with the Blues. So what does he do? He goes and he signs with the Vegas Golden Knights, and he ends up signing for a $1.5 million contract. So good for him. And mind you, he's got 7 goals, 16 points in 43 games with the St. Louis Blues. Again, if you have an opportunity to just go and like be on a good team, why wouldn't you, right? Like why wouldn't you? So, and then a couple other things we have, Rasmus. Oh, by the way, Saad has won Stanley Cups. He won them with the Chicago Blackhawks. So you absolutely want that pedigree of a guy who's a known winner, right? Also talking about the Flames earlier. It looks like the Flames will be keeping Rasmus Andersson despite potentially receive a monstrous trade for him at the deadline. I think that's silly. But I will say that I think Rasmus Andersson may end up being your next captain. I think it's gonna be him or Huberdeau. I think Rasmus Andersson will be there a little bit longer, and he's been with the team the whole time. So I think that makes a ton of sense. So you have Adam Boqvist was put on waivers from Florida. 24-year-old had 2 goals, 6 points in 18 games with the Florida Panthers. Ends up being claimed by the New York Islanders. So we'll see if he gets an opportunity there to kind of work with them and everything. So also, if you didn't see the wicked check or collision with Heiskanen, is on Mark Stone. Why? I mean, to me, it was I think it was Rope Hintz. It was whoever was the center that collided with Mark Stone who ended up colliding with Heiskanen. He is like it was an accident. It was a dumb move by the Stars player, the center who hit Mark Stone, who ended up falling into Heiskanen. Heiskanen is now out week to week due to a lower body injury and is doubtful for the Four Nations face-off with Finland, which completely screws the Finland's chance to actually try and win this thing, in my opinion. I mean, that's just completely screws it up. So talking about the NHL has been doing NHL Hockeyverse matchup of the week, a 30-minute animated show recapping a game from the previous week. That'd be fun, like a little it looks like cartoony, almost like a Pixar-ish with lower quality. Which would be nice to see for the NHL to do something like that, to bring up the young kids into the game and everything. So, Zdeno Chara was has been hired as the team consultant for the Boston Bruins. And it'll be his first managerial role in the NHL. This guy played over 1,600 games, almost 1,700 games in the NHL from 97 to 2022. He also won a Stanley Cup in 2011 and was captain as well. So, I mean, that's definitely not a bad thing to bring in a guy that is just so well regarded in the organization. So, I think this is our last bit of information as well. We got the Seattle Kraken, who waived Philip Grubauer, and he was not claimed. And so Philip Grubauer goes down to the AHL. And so with that, what ends up happening is that he's going to stay in the AHL. So who they have to call someone up, right? They end up calling up Ales Stezka as their backup goalie to replace Grubauer. He's 20 years old. He's 8-12-8 with a .902 save percentage with Coachella in the AHL. He was drafted 111th overall in 2015. And so he's making his debut 10 years after his draft. Actually, let's pull him up real quick. That's like a good feel-good story. Let's see. Was he even drafted? He was drafted in 2015. Where was or who drafted him in 2015? Because that's what I'm most curious. Like, I want to know who let him go, because now you have Seattle having this guy as a backup goalie, which you never know, right? You never know what he's going to be until he's like up here, right? So he was drafted by the Minnesota Wild in the 4th round, 2015. Dang, that's so. I mean, good for him, right? That's huge, right? I mean, this guy's making has an NHL contract and everything, so I'm excited to see what he does. Looks like in Coachella last year he had a 2.48 save percentage and a 914 save percentage. Phenomenal. Love to see that, right? And then he played mostly in Czechia the year before that. I mean, just mostly in Czechia. So, I mean, good for him, man. He's really starting to like pull out. Looks like he has some decent numbers throughout his career. It'll be great to see if he pops off and everything. Maybe get another like Joey Daccord situation where like Joey Daccord just like comes out. He was a goalie in the NHL, but he really started to pop off. And maybe you get 2 really good goalies, and Seattle can start to really build a good roster, because they're kind of flailing a little bit too. We were just talking about teams that are just not producing as well as you thought they would. Seattle is absolutely one of those runs where I'm like, dude, like, can you guys get your stuff together? You're supposed to be like an expansion team. Vegas made expansion teams look so hot and sexy. And Seattle's just not doing that. 49 points in 53 games, and they're 5-5 in the last 10. I mean, come on, guys, like, get your stuff together, you know? So, but anyways, hit like, subscribe. We're going to cover the Miller trade to the New York Rangers in the next video. So make sure you check out that video in the next one. I love you, and I'll catch you later. Bye.